So writers are just basically like, if you're gonna get money, we want to get money too. And I mean that depends on what everybody thinks of. But I remember, to go back to one of Joss Whedon's points, he said basically that writers are like the baker, and you come in and you bake a loaf of bread, and then 2 days from now, if when you come in and you do the same work, basically you want to understand, like, okay, shouldn't I get paid for the bread that I'm making? And I think it's different with residuals, because you're saying basically you're not rewriting something. It's a different analogy. You can't say that if you build remotes, we're talking about digital. So in the world of digital, you only have to build one remote and then copy that a million times. And then you're making money off that copy. So you only really did the work one time, and the computer and technology did the rest of the work by, forwarding it. It's like an email. You make one email and you forward it to millions of people. So why are you making a penny off of all those forwards? When you see what I'm saying, it doesn't make sense. It's like in the digital age, it's one thing if a residual was, okay, we're gonna re-put that Seinfeld episode again, but you have to rewrite it now. You have to put new lines into that episode. Then it's a different loaf of bread. You're getting paid again for the writing, but you're not doing that. It's already been written. It was written years ago. You just wrote it that one day, that one night, and now even though you're not getting paid that much, it's just a little bit of a fraction of money. And you're going, well, shouldn't I get money for that? And it's like I said, you can go down the line. Then you could say, well, the wardrobe department, shouldn't they get paid? The dresses that are on the actors, shouldn't they get paid? Or the set, that set is being shown again. Those actors, shouldn't they be, and the camera guy. Like, you can go down, the casting director could say, well, I put that actor there because I found him. And you can go down the line for everybody who wants to get money. And to kind of just put yourself above and say, well, I sat down on a computer and I put text on something and I printed it and then they did it and then now I deserve money for that creation. It's like, yeah, but did you pay for the bills for the lighting so that those actors could be seen? Because gaffers and grips have to put the lights up, and the lighting cost money. Did you pay the light bill for it? No. What about the sets? What about the lenses? Did you? So you see what I'm saying? So it's so easy for a writer to just kind of sit down and go, well, because it came out of my mind and I put it on a white blank canvas. It's all me, and it's like I just feel like it's a very wrong thing to do that, because there's so many other people helping you realize and achieve that vision, and that if you should be kind of grateful at the fact that this company is still pushing forward your product. And another problem with a lot of this writing and residuals is like not every movie and not everything written should be judged in the same way. I mean, what if you're writing a sequel, or what if you're writing a remake? Should you get residuals on a remake? I mean, look at the Halloween movie. Should Rob Zombie get paid for essentially stealing from something that already existed? I mean, he put maybe the last couple of pages or something that were kind of his, but ultimately, with remakes, like a perfect example is Disturbia. I mean, that's really Rear Window. I mean, it's just a kid with an ankle bracelet, but it's the same. It's essentially Rear Window. And you can say, well, you can't copyright ideas and premises because Armageddon and Deep Impact. But, it should be, is there someone who's going to judge the difference of that and go, okay, Truman Show is about a guy locked in a fake world, and The Matrix is about a guy in a fake world, but they're completely different. But, you're trying, it's like, it's easy for a writer to just say, well, I wrote something, and you're putting it out again, and give me money for that because I wrote that. But it's like, yeah, but you didn't write that. It was a remake. So are remakes judged in the same way? And what about sequels? It's kind of like, it's a sequel. It's kind of like, it's not really a new thing. It's kind of like you made a sequel to something that was already established. So you kind of already wrote this guy, this Jack Sparrow, this character. Now you're writing him again with some new lines. So it's very interesting to kind of, not everything's done in the same way for writing, so that to kind of go along that process of, if it's, if you're putting it out there again and you're getting paid off the ads, then I want to cut. Even if it's pennies, I want to cut. And, like I said, it's like, the solution for a lot of this is ultimately, to me, the best thing that could happen for me is that when you go to a kind of studio credit system should happen, where one of the best, obviously, creators of our time, one of the, obviously geniuses was Walt Disney. And Walt Disney always said that, he always just, he didn't waste money on himself. I mean, he lived good and he had, a nice house and obviously he was rich. But any dollar, any money that he made from making a Pinocchio just went into Cinderella. And from Cinderella, it went into, Peter Pan. And from Peter Pan, he just made the money to keep the studio afloat and do the next thing. So I'm thinking that maybe if you're going to start negotiating these contracts, is that you should basically, for back-end dealing, and, you should basically have some kind of studio credit system that says, okay, you put, the Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind or something. You put Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind out. It made, $100 million. You get your percentage of that. Now you can set aside a studio credit that, just like a Best Buy gift card, is like the money can only be used to be put back into the studio. So if you got like $40,000 from that, well then maybe about like 13,000 of it can be put back into a spec script, either yours that you want to write, one that you want to put. So it's the money's going right back into the studio and not into the person's account. And like I said, there's a lot of pros and cons to that idea. I mean, you don't want just your money to just get taken and put into a shitty project. So I think but the point is that what it does is it creates a situation that's like, okay, you wrote and then we forgot about you, you're gone, but it's like, okay, you wrote that thing, you can take some of that money that came from the box office and put it into a project for this studio, so you can either write something or you can read through what's written, you can find a book or something, you can find some kind of story, and you can put money into it, invest, and then it would be, then you're no longer just a writer. Now your money is being put into it, and you're an investor now, and you're an executive producer, and suddenly you have more creative control over the next project, and you get to stay with the studio. Of course, you can have some kind of thing where, if after a year, after 2 years, or something happens, you can, and they're not utilizing that story, you can kind of opt out and just take your money. Or like when you win the lottery now, they have a thing where you can either get it, if you win like $20 million, you get that $20 million, in the span of your entire, 40, 50 years. They give you a couple, or you can opt to just get all the money at once. So I'm sure you can set up something like that where it's like, okay, I don't want to put money back in the studio, I don't want to have a credit, but I do want to take it, but a chunk of it is going to stay with the studio, and go, okay, 40,000, but we're going to take, 13,000 for us. And then, so you could totally, like, I see like that model is makes more sense, instead of just sort of giving somebody, here's 40 grand, goodbye. Because, I mean, you're a creator. The whole point is that what you do is for the purpose of creating. Yes, you have payments and you want to buy cars and you want to, you have all these other things that you want to do, but ultimately you're a creator first. And you always want to kind of stay working and stay in the studio, whether it be Warner Brothers, New Line, basically, Sony Pictures. I mean, you want to stay with the company depending on the relationship that you have with the people, if they don't screw you or not. But you look at a lot of directors and a lot of people, they kind of stay in the same place, whether it's Fox or George Lucas, and Robert Zemeckis has his own place, and James Cameron, and that a lot of these people's directors, actors, writers, they kind of stay with the same people. And I guess the best person doing that now would be Tom Cruise, and Tom Cruise is really smart in what he does, and that he picks kind of one project, focuses on that, gives it his all, and then kind of moves on to the next project, gives it his all, and he's now with United Artists. Him and Paula Wagner have produced some of the best, they've produced some of the most amazing creations for film, and I think that to kind of take that model now and put that into writing is the best thing, because, these past 10 years have been really, I mean, there's been some really great stuff, but post Fight Club, I mean, you really look at it and you're like, wow, man, we really have become a blockbuster sequel remake kind of world. There aren't any fresh voices and new talent out there. I mean, there's been Wes Anderson, but a lot of what we're doing now is we're just kind of telling stories that kind of already been told.